Don't bite my head off, but if you subscribe to any of these 5 myths about the reptile hobby, you're what's making it toxic. My name's Adam, this is Diamond, you're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles, stick around. Okay, alright, you're here now, so the reptile hobby is not actually toxic. For the most part, I love this community, I love you, you guys are great, everything is fantastic. Except for there's 5 things that if you subscribe to, I think that you need just to give your head a shake, just a little. I think these 5 things or mantras or ways of thinking kind of act as a barrier to entry or is just not correct and kind of drives people away and makes us all look a little silly. So let's go through them. Number 5, experience is everything. Now, don't get me wrong, experience means a whole lot. I mean, you need experience to be good at basically anything. So if you meet someone who's been breeding ball pythons for 25 years, of course, listen to them. If they've been doing it successfully and built up a business and the whole thing, of course, listen to them. But that doesn't mean that there aren't dinosaurs out there that are still doing the same things they did 40 years ago that aren't completely acceptable now. So the whole idea of, well, I've been doing it for such and such amount of time, so therefore the way I do it is right, is ridiculous. Such baloney. Doesn't make any sense. Because I'll tell you what, I've been driving cars since before Max Verstappen was in diapers, and it doesn't make me a better driver than him. I've been lifting weights and entering bodybuilding competitions since before Chris Bumstead lifted up a weight. That doesn't mean that I'm a better bodybuilder than him. That doesn't make sense. I've been doing it longer, therefore I know better. And as a football coach said to me a long time ago, and I've carried this my entire life, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So just because you've been doing something for a long time doesn't mean you're good at it. There's a lot of people we see who are in their 30s or 40s who have been living a life for 30 or 40 years and they're not that good at it. So no, experience isn't everything. Now, with that said, there are guys in the world like the, mutation creations of the world who Billy's been doing it forever, and that guy knows what he's doing because he's been doing it correctly forever. Just keeping with the breeding ball pythons theme for this example. But you see on forums all the time, Facebook pages, all this stuff, well, hey, what you're saying isn't true because I've been doing it for 20 years, so therefore I think I would know better. Okay, well, 20 years ago, we also put bearded dragons in 20-gallon enclosures and ball pythons in 10-gallon enclosures, and we didn't have UVB lights for certain, just because you've been doing it for a long time, things grow and change. And sometimes, if you came in later, your brain is more malleable and you're more willing to accept the change because it is more recent and you're not stuck in your old ways. So experience definitely means a lot. I'm not discounting that. However, the whole argument, I've been doing it such and such, so therefore I'm right, is ridiculous. I hate the argument. If you use it, you're a silly goose. Let's move on to the next one. Number 4, everything has to be perfect. No, it doesn't. You're trying to give these animals the most ideal circumstances possible. But guess what? Bearded dragons out in the wilds of Australia have predation, and they have monsoons, and they have droughts, and they have you name it, right? Those animals are surviving and have for hundreds of thousands of years with all those conditions. And in captivity, if one day you forget to pick up the poop or you forget to feed one day, you're gonna be fine. This isn't a dog. If you don't feed your dog for 2 days, it's gonna be a big deal. If you go on vacation for a weekend and your bearded dragon goes 4 days without food, when normally they get fed every other day, it's gonna be fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. I say in the care guides all the time, we just did a bearded dragon one right here. Hope you enjoy it. I said in the care guide, this is a care guide, not a do as I say or your reptile will die immediately. If you have a hotspot, let's suppose for bearded dragon, 105 is what I think is perfect. Of course, it could be 107 or it could be 103. It doesn't matter. If you have 107 on the basking spot, it'll just move down the basking spot just a little bit. If you have a cool side that's 69 degrees, which is probably too cold, but you have the hot side exactly where it needs to be, then it's a gradient. So they're not going to be on the far side of the cool side. They'll come a little bit closer because it'll go from 69 degrees all the way until 85 degrees or whatever you have it set up as gradually so it can figure it out. So no, it doesn't have to be perfect. The humidity, it might spike, it might get lower. The whole idea that, oh, well, give me your temperatures and humidity, and you see one reading from one day, and all of a sudden this person's a bad keeper, it's silly goose stuff. Most people, this is common sense stuff, so not for most of you, but either way, no, things don't have to be perfect. Ooh, all right, here we go. Number 3, racks are not the devil. They're not. I mean, I know that most people don't like racks and tub systems, or most like hobby keepers, and I agree. There is very few reasons why you'd want to use a rack or a tub system. If you look behind me, you don't see any, right? This is a giant room filled with naturalistic enclosures. They're all bioactive on this side, and on this side, they're as realistic as I can get for these bigger snakes so that they don't trample plants, right? I'm doing my best to give them the biggest spaces. I go always bigger. The bearded dragon is 120 gallon. The monkey tails have what, 240 gallon? Like, they are big enclosures, and they're decked out as much as possible with all the enrichment you could ever want. There's literally what, 1,000 gallon enclosure here for a boa. Like, I get it, and I personally don't like racks either. However, they have a time and a place, and I did a whole video right here going into big detail about it, but for the sake of time, this is what it is. Certain species do pretty good in racks if you set up the enclosure properly, because it is still an enclosure. If, let's suppose, you have a bull snake, right? And the bull snake is going to be in an enclosure that is really big, a la Snake Discovery. Now, if you have something bad to say about the way that anyone keeps an animal, I would recommend that maybe you'd go and check it out first. I've been to Snake Discovery, I've stood over the bins, I've put my hands in the bins, I've grabbed their snakes. They have the biggest enclosures I've ever seen at any breeding facility, including PVC enclosures. These have bigger footprints than PVC enclosures. So the whole idea of, well, they're small and they're cramped, they don't have to be. If you put a snake into a cramped bin and put it into a rack system, then of course, I don't agree with that. But if you have a rack system that gives a big enough enclosure, then it's totally fine. Of course, I don't recommend doing this if you have, say, 8 inches of height and you have a chondro or some arboreal type snake. That doesn't work. But there are certain species it works for and certain species it doesn't. So racks are not the devil. Well, only sometimes if you use them incorrectly. Number 2, cohabbing is always wrong. Okay, so no. Cohabbing is not always wrong. Sometimes it is. I mean, for certain things like bearded dragons, for example, you could technically keep female bearded dragons together if you had a massive enclosure with tons of bassing areas, hide areas, the whole thing. So they're not competing with each other. You can never cohab male bearded dragons. Like, just basic common sense stuff. Not common sense, I shouldn't say it like that, because if you don't know, you don't know. But it's pretty basic, you learn pretty quick. There are certain things that you just don't cohab basically at all. I mean, I don't recommend cohabbing ball pythons or things like that. It just makes more sense for them to be solitary. But there are animals like leopard geckos, crested geckos, some species of turtles, garter snakes that maybe don't benefit if you have like too small of an enclosure, but they do just fine, or they can thrive, which is what we're going for here. And I wouldn't recommend doing it if it's just so that they do just fine, but if they thrive, things like garter snakes that actually do better socially, or a lot of people would say that, I wouldn't say that's a conclusive thing, but most people who keep garter snakes keep them together, and they see that it is a positive type of enrichment for them. This isn't the case with most species, but for example, I keep crested geckos together, and they do great because I have them in bigger enclosures. Same thing with tortoises. I have big enclosures. I have an outside enclosure that's something like, I don't know, 20 by 12 or whatever. So I have 2 redfoots out there. They do absolutely fantastic together. I've kept female leopard geckos together too, from the same clutch, literally sisters, in a way bigger enclosure than necessary, and they do great. However, if I give you one of these examples, it doesn't mean just go throw these animals together. You have to do your research, and there are videos like this one right here that explain exactly how to do that. And number 1, breeders are only in it to get rich. I'm just gonna give a sec for all the breeders to laugh. Okay, so most breeders aren't getting rich. Now, I'm not gonna say that there aren't breeders who are doing very well for themselves, because of course there are. However, if they're doing everything ethically, who cares? Who cares how much money they're making? It doesn't make any sense. But let's not focus on the 1%. Let's focus on most breeders. A lot of breeders make no money. Most breeders, it costs them money, and some breeders are making a living. Now, if you're making a living, you are part of, I don't know exactly, I would guess maybe 5% of breeders who are doing it for a living and making enough money that you can pay to raise a family, have a house, that type of thing, right? The whole American dream, let's say. Let's use that as a standard, okay? Maybe 5%, I would guess. Those people are not doing it to get rich. Those people are doing it because they love snakes or lizards or whatever it is that they breed, and they don't want to work at a desk job, hating their life, doing something that they don't want to do. They want to follow their passion and follow their dreams. Just like I don't do this for the money either, because I don't drive a Lamborghini or live in a 25-bedroom house. I live in a normal house and drive a normal vehicle. I do this because I'm following my dream and following my passion, and I get to make a decent living doing it and do what I love. And breeders, because I know a lot of them and I talk to a lot of them, all of them are in the same boat. I've never met one that is so much, well, there might be like one or two that maybe overbreed things, but we're not talking about those people. We're talking about most breeders. Most breeders are in it because they love these animals, they're passionate about it, and they want to make their passion. Of course the frogs are going. See, they're agreeing with me. They want to make their passion their living, and there is nothing wrong with that. Following your dreams is a noble pursuit, as long as you do it with integrity and you're not harming animals in the process. And I am here to tell you, as somebody who gets to travel all around and talk to a lot of breeders, I have not met very many. And I'm talking about, I can count on one hand how many I have met who have been in that category of bad guys who overbreed for profit with no wherewithal for the animal's health and life. There are very few of those. Most of them are good guys. So support your local breeders, do your research on the ones, because we all vote with our dollar. So only buy things from reputable breeders, and eventually all the other ones will disappear because they'll be broke like they deserve. That's it. Let me know what you think a myth is that is ruining the hobby. And of course, I want to make it clear, I think these are so rare. I want to say thank you to all of you in the community. You guys are amazing. I absolutely love this. I love being part of this community, and the reptile community is what keeps this hobby going. You guys are freaking awesome. And if you think so, hit like and subscribe. See what I did there? Anyway, thanks to this Patreon supporters also. You guys are freaking amazing. For as little as $1 a month, you get discounts on the merch, videos early, we had this huge clutch just drop. If you want to know about it, it's all on Patreon. And that's it. Because I do videos on Mondays and Thursdays, that means I'll see you in the next one.